a sort of spiritual, mystical basis. Both of them are not really connected. So the reason we started with Mao Sur, this particular tune is from the Middle Ages. And the way we've always thought about Hanukkah is that it's based on a real battle that happened. You can read about it in the Book of Maccabees, which in our Jewish canon of biblical text is in the Apocrypha, the extra texts. It's not part of our regular Bible. But it tells the story of long battles of the Maccabees. Because of this, because it's based on a battle, Hanukkah is not considered a major holiday in religious terms for Jews. But however, it is a very important holiday because of its importance bringing light into the darkest time of the year, which is the second purpose of Hanukkah. But first I'll talk a little bit about the history. So Judea was always fairly autonomous for many years in the time before the Roman occupation. The Roman occupation was around 60 BCE. Before that, Judea was often under occupation, Greek, Syrian, Assyrian, Babylonian, but through much of that time, Judea was able to have its own religion, its own rituals, and life kind of went on independently. In 168 of the, before the Common Era, a Syrian Greek king came in and occupied Judea. His name was Antiochus Epiphanes. And he went against that tradition and he began to ban all things Jewish. He said Jews could not celebrate the Sabbath, they could not celebrate their festivals. And the worst part, the thing that he did was he went into the great temple in Jerusalem, which had stood since, I don't know, since the 1000 BCE and had been rebuilt. That's another story. Anyway, the temple in Jerusalem, which is where the Jews brought all of their sacrifices, and there was a huge temple cult. It was believed that that's where God lived, literally. Antiochus and his army went into the temple in Jerusalem. They destroyed it, and they set up a temple to Zeus. And just to make things worse, they forced Jews to sacrifice pigs, which was, like the worst thing you could do from a Jewish perspective. So also they abolished circumcision. And when you look at it historically, it seems like a terrible thing, and it was a terrible thing. But as in every society, there was a split. So not only was there an outside invader, there was also a civil war that came out of this. And the civil war was between the Jews who wanted all their traditions to remain intact. And this was symbolized by the Maccabees, by Mattathias, who was from the priestly caste, and his 5 sons, the Maccabees, led by Judah Maccabee. They wanted the tradition to be preserved completely as it was. And so they were against absolutely everything. But there were people, quite a lot of people at that time, who were okay with adopting some of the Greek traditions, like the sports and the culture and the music. They were assimilating a little bit. And this became ultimately a civil war internally, which really continued right up until the time of Jesus. In fact, a lot of what happened at the time of Jesus was based on this internal rift in the Jewish community between those who wanted to adopt some of the Roman and Greek ways of life, and those who absolutely would not. And we still see that today with Jews living in the diaspora. We have to compromise how much we assimilate and how much we retain of our own culture. So this is an old story. But the actual story of the battle was that Judah Maccabee and his brothers fought what was really the first guerrilla war. They would attack at night, and they would attack when these large armies were not expecting it. And after several battles, they won. And they were able to kick out the Antiochus and his army, which was a good thing. And the miracle of Hanukkah that we consider is based on the fact that when they went into the temple has always had a ner tamid, an eternal light. And if you read in the Bible, when you read about the creation of the temple, always there's a light that burns all the time, has to always be lit. You see it also in churches and in synagogues today. There's often a light that's always, right? And what does it mean? What does it mean, you think? Yes?
God is there.
God is there. That's right. It's a symbol of God being there, and also a symbol of yes?
Hope is there.
Hope is there. Yes. It's also a symbol of continuity and the hope that the community will continue. So when the light was put out in the temple by Antiochus and his armies, people lost hope. And so the most important thing when they went back into the temple to clean it up and bring it back to worship was to light that ner tamid. But the legend goes, and I have to say this is legend because it's not in any biblical text. The legend of Hanukkah is actually from about 600 AD, from the Common Era. It's from the Talmud. It says that there was only enough oil for one night, for one day. But it takes about a week to create this very special oil that's used for the temple. So they needed to stretch that out for 8 days till they could get another batch. And the miracle was that the light kept burning. So you have this historical fact of this battle that the Maccabees won and this legend of the lights. And it's a legend of the lights that we celebrate. And in a little while, we will light the lights shortly, but in a little while, I'll also talk about the second purpose of Hanukkah, which is about bringing light into darkness. But we're going to sing a couple of songs first. Always got to sing. I brought in 2 songs from different traditions. Sorry, Jakob, I'm moving again. Driving you crazy, I know.